Hey everybody, John Patterson with Stanberry Insurance. I wanted to make a quick video today about kind of a general overview about some things on crop insurance that I thought would be good for people to know. There's a lot of information about crop insurance, and so for the most part I try to put those out in separate videos that can specifically talk about different opportunities or different programs that farmers can access. So this is kind of some things that have come up in conversations or questions that I've gotten that people may not fully understand the ins and outs of, that I thought I would just address in this separate video, and hopefully you guys will find it informative. And if there's anything in here that you weren't aware of before, hopefully that's helpful. Or if this video ends up bringing up more questions and you have questions, then at the end obviously I'll have my contact information and you can reach out and ask any questions. So if you are a larger farmer, you're probably fairly familiar with crop insurance. It's probably something that you have and that you've had for quite a while. You may be familiar with the options that you have available to you, the sales close dates for those options, when the bills are due, what to do when you have a loss, all these ins and outs. You may also be very familiar with some of the different carriers that offer crop insurance in your state or in your region that you can reach out to get those policies. Or you may have had the same carrier for a very, very long time and just never changed or never even thought to change. If you are a smaller farmer or you are a medium-sized farmer, or especially either of those two, but you live in a more rural area where farming might not be the most prevalent thing that's going on in the community, there's a little bit less awareness. And so that's an area that I want to be able to address there as well, because there are folks that maybe have only known about some options that are available through the FSA office, and as a result the options that are available through a crop insurance agent like myself through the federal program are things that they're less familiar with, and so there's a lot of questions about and things of that nature. So this is not necessarily going to answer all the questions, but it's going to hopefully address a couple, and then in separate videos I'll try to address different specific types of crop insurance and how those work so that there's better explanation behind that. So one thing that people ask is, well, isn't the crop insurance, isn't that part of the Farm Bill? Isn't it a federal program? And if so, then how are you attached to that as a crop insurance agent? Because, you're talking to me about this, but you don't work with the FSA office, or you're not part of the USDA. And so there's some understanding of how that actually is connected. So yes, the crop insurance program, the federal crop insurance program, is part of a government program that is overseen through the USDA and the RMA branch of the USDA. Programs are developed for farmers so that they can provide protection that's needed for their crops. There are specific protections in place for specific crops. There are specific programs in place that can cover a variety of crops that are grown in similar ways or are sold in similar ways. And there are things that have been developed over time to fill in some gaps that were missing. In more recent years, there have been some programs that are based on rainfall index that can address things like forage and hay growth, grazing land that was not necessarily in place a long time ago. There is a rainfall index program for bees. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff in the news about that with issues with colony collapse, and there's been a huge push for people to start having colonies, seeing beekeepers having classes at the extension offices and things like that. It's been on the rise, so another program in place to kind of help with that, because obviously that is technically it's a livestock crop kind of a thing. And then like the whole farm revenue program that was implemented in the 2014 Farm Bill is something that a lot of folks are still unfamiliar with. They're not necessarily sure how that might fit their program. But all of these things were developed through the USDA and the RMA. So it is a government program. It is a federal program. It is overseen by them as well, because they've got skin in the game as part of their call to be able to offer quality and affordable crop insurance options to folks in agriculture. There are subsidies attached to these crop insurance programs so that the farmers themselves are not having to foot the bill for the entire cost of that crop insurance. And so depending upon the program and depending upon the coverage level that the farmer selects and things like that, there are subsidies involved where the government program actually has some skin in the game to help pay some of that premium to offset the cost to the actual grower. So in that sense, yes, it is a federal program. If you are used to working with the FSA office, then yes, those people are directly associated to the USDA, and the options that they can offer are directly associated with that. On the other side, with the rest of the crop insurance world, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of paperwork. There's customer service involved. There's claim service involved. And the government would prefer that the private sector be able to handle those things. And so insurance companies in general, if you buy your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance or your health care, all of these insurance structures have folks in place that are trained and they're familiar with being able to sell a policy, to be able to service that policy, to be able to handle a claim when it happens, and to do that year over year over year. So that's the portion that the federal government has partnered with insurance carriers for crop insurance to be able to offer to the customer. In large part, that's also how those companies differentiate themselves. The agents like myself that they work with, the boots on the ground that are actually going to be going out to the farm, working with the farmer, getting to know their operation, making sure that that grower knows what options they have available to them, that they are properly protecting their assets in a way that best makes sense for their operation, and that year over year as their operation changes, that they also have an agent that they can work with to take those things into consideration and make changes. Then on the other side, once it's past that point, if there's customer service issues, if there's questions or concerns, that maybe they contact their agent or they contact somebody within the insurance company for a customer service question. That's something that they pride themselves on, is the type of customer service that they give to their clients. And then obviously when that day comes, or if that day comes where there is a loss and there's a claim that has to be filed, those companies want to make sure that they're trying to provide the best possible service in that scenario. So it's a claim service issue, who's the adjuster that's coming out to your farm to take a look at what your loss might be, and the relationship that they can build with you. Those are the ways that they differentiate themselves in large part. They also work with the RMA to develop some private products. So a crop insurance carrier may offer all of the crop insurance options that the government provides, but they may also offer private product options that they have developed themselves to be able to offer to growers that can help them stand out. So these insurance providers are referred to as AIPs, or approved insurance providers. Now they work directly with the RMA to make sure that the programs are being offered properly, to review and discuss changes or adjustments that are made to these programs as time moves forward. They also, because they have that direct contact with their agents and with the growers that they're providing the policies for, they're providing information back up the chain to the RMA to discuss ways that these things need to be adjusted or tweaked or improved in years to come so that they better service farmers. And so as a result, there's a good partnership, in most cases a really good partnership between the RMA and the insurance provider. And so that's a really positive thing. But that's where that connection point is. So it's an approved provider that the RMA is working directly with to offer that crop insurance to the farmers. So now to the next thing. I'm just referring to this as imports and exports. There are aspects of how these companies operate that have been brought up to me, or that I've mentioned to somebody and maybe it was a surprise. It may not be a factor that anybody is too worried about, but it also is something that it needs to be out there so that the information is there. And this comes into, who are these companies? So if you're a farmer, if you're a large farmer, you're probably very familiar with imports and exports. You may have some of your crop or your livestock that are actually exported to foreign countries every year. But you also probably know that every time you go into a grocery store, you can find products and produce and things all across the store that are actually grown or made or manufactured in a foreign country, and they're imported in. And that's where the local food movement has been a great thing, I think, for agriculture. There's a lot of folks that want to push to get restaurants and grocery stores and different vendors to carry more local products. That's something that I think we've seen grow nationwide over the past several years, and that I think we are going to continue to see that growth occur. I'd love to see that continue to spike. And there's issues around the term of local, what that really means to different people, things of that nature. But overall, the local market is something that obviously a smaller farmer or a medium-sized operation relies on heavily in what they do. So you've got imports and exports, and you've got local. These are things that you as a farmer are probably fairly familiar with in terms of what you do. But these same things apply to a lot of other areas. So if you go shopping for something else, or if you shop online for something, there's a good chance that what you're purchasing, you're not necessarily purchasing local, or you're not necessarily purchasing from within the U.S. So here's how what I'm saying right now actually ties to crop insurance. Crop insurance actually could turn out to be something that you're importing from overseas that you don't necessarily realize. And so here's what I mean. In the U.S., there are 15 insurance providers for crop insurance. In the entire U.S., there's 15 insurance companies that the RMA is working with. Of those 15 companies, only 6 of them are actually American companies, American-owned and operated companies. In addition to that, depending upon where you live, it may change that fraction for you, because not every insurance provider offers crop insurance in every single state. So depending upon your state that you're in, the providers you have available to you are going to kind of fluctuate. So what I mean by that is, if you look, and this is, I'm not going to specifically call out any companies because I don't want to disparage any companies. This is just kind of a fact, and you can look it up yourself. Online, you can find a list of the approved insurance providers for crop insurance in the U.S. And if you go through the list of names there, you can find that many of them have offices in the U.S., but a lot of them have parent companies. So they have a larger company that actually owns them. Those are the companies that are actually located overseas. So a crop insurance company may operate within the U.S., and the only thing that they do is sell crop insurance in the U.S. But technically that company is actually owned by a foreign company. And so the revenues and the financial stability of that company is tied to a company that is overseas. So if you look, you'll find parent companies, and those parent companies are located in places like Canada, the Bermuda Island, Sweden, Japan, Australia. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that these companies aren't quality companies, or that they can't necessarily provide you with the service that you're looking for. They are approved providers through the RMA. However, these are companies who are owned and operated and headquartered overseas. And they've gotten into the market of crop insurance in the U.S. as a business, as part of their business model. So that's just something that some people are aware of, some people are not aware of. Some people who are not aware of that are actually surprised by that, and that's the reason that I mentioned that. So a direct example that I would give is in the state of North Carolina. There are 11 providers of crop insurance out of the full 15 for the U.S., and of those 11 providers in North Carolina, only 3 of them are actually U.S. companies. So not all 15 carriers write crop insurance in North Carolina, and of the 11 that do, 3 of them are American companies. So that's kind of the wrap up there. Those are just a couple things that I felt like I wanted to address and get out, because I've had some questions come up around that. I am proud of the work that I do with farmers each and every day, proud to help them protect their operations, and proud to serve them across the Southeast in various states. Things change from state to state, rules and regulations, laws, but also the carriers that are available. And this is something that kind of, farmers might have questions about. And so that's, part of the reason that I'm trying to do this video series, and hopefully I can answer any questions that people have. Stanberry Insurance is proudly been family owned and operated for the full 38 years that it's been in business. It's still family owned and operated today, and representing American owned companies is actually kind of a point of pride. Stanberry Insurance, we work with a lot of different carriers to make sure that we can provide the best possible service to our customers. But through that, we're very proud of the fact that we have some very front of the line carriers, some very well known, very well regarded companies that have been in business for decades or even 100 years or more in the U.S. that are still American owned companies, and we're proud of that. So if you have any questions that I wasn't able to answer in this particular video, or if you want to discuss your farm operation, your property and liability insurance, or crop insurance, or anything related to that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My cell phone number is listed right there. No 1-800 numbers needed. You can directly get a hold of me. It's probably the best way to get a hold of me. But also my email address there. I'd be happy to correspond that way if it's easier for you. But again, if there's any questions that you have, anything that I might be able to answer for you, or any way that I could be of service, please just let me know. And until the next video, thanks. Take care.